Hello, everyone. This is Edna with Seven Figure Real Estate Podcast. And today I have with me a guest all the way from Ottawa, Ontario, Alfonso. And I'm sorry, Alfonso, I do not know how to say your last name. How do I say it?
Quadra.
Quadra. Oh, I love that. That's such a beautiful name. So I had the pleasure of connecting with Alfonso through one of my students actually earlier in the week. And I said, man, I need to get you on my podcast because your story needs to be shared with my audience, including the fact that he's actually, even though he's based in Ottawa, buying quite a lot of properties in Saskatchewan. So I'm always interested to hear how that goes. So Alfonso, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I mean, I think we've met a few times in the past, but we finally got to, do a one-on-one together, and it was like a match made in heaven. It was
exactly
it's like we knew each other for years and years and years.
It felt like it, yeah.
To honor you today, I wore my fuchsia blazer.
I love it. I love it.
Because I'm like, you're a firecracker. You're out there, the hair and everything. You have a lot of energy, and I'm the same way. People say, Alfonso, like, you have so much energy, yeah. And that's imagine two people that get together with that much energy.
We'll do great things, Alfonso, won't we? So give us a little bit of background, Alfonso. What did you used to do before you got into real estate, and what got you inspired to be in real estate?
Well, I was a business owner. So I started as a business owner, entrepreneur. A bit of backstory. I come from Latin America, El Salvador to be specific.
Okay.
Before the age of 9, I was in 2 wars, and I immigrated to Canada as a refugee.
Oh, yeah.
And pretty much started with nothing. We came here with nothing. I was 9 years old. My mom is a single mother. Had issues integrating into the school system, frustrated. I don't know about you, Edna, but, I felt like there was nothing really resonating with me in school,
Very much so.
I remember being 10 years old, and I asked a very simple question to one of my teachers, because I kept hearing this word mortgage being thrown around. And I said, what's a mortgage? And the teacher said, you won't believe it. She's like, a mortgage is something you get when you're older. That was the answer she had. So I'm like, geez, I think even at 10 years old, I knew that wasn't acceptable, right? I mean, she couldn't really describe what a mortgage was. So, I had struggled in school, and eventually at 15, I dropped out of high school. And because of some conflict at home as well, I also left home, and now I'm 15, homeless. Originally, I immigrated to Vancouver, but I had moved to Ottawa. So, panhandling for change, sleeping in banks. And I had a life-changing moment. And that's when I became a father. I was 17, became a father to this, beautiful little girl. Her name is Talia. I have 2 daughters now, Talia and Alicia. But it changed my life. It gave me purpose. It gave me a reason why. And as you know, you have to have a purpose. There has to be a reason. It can't just be for the sake of making money for the sake of making money. You have to have a reason why.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Well, we have more in common than you can even imagine then, because I was a single mom at age 16. And yeah, that I tell everyone that's what started my drive, was at that age, now that I look back. So totally can relate.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely do not want to encourage for kids to have kids.
Exactly.
You don't have to, and I do a lot of talks for a lot of young people, and that's not what we're not saying that you need to have a kid to find purpose. Mm-hmm. Purpose could be anything in your life. It could be, you just need a reason why you want something. Maybe it was like negative Uncle Billy Bob that told you could never do it.
And that never amount to anything, right?
Yeah, it's just, what are you going to hold on to? And for me, it was that little girl. I wanted that little girl to be proud of me. And so at 17, I went back to high school. I started a small little business. I was selling jeans and T-shirts out of my locker in high school.
Oh, good.
And I also had a full-time job. So I was going to school full-time, had a full-time job, $5 an hour. That was the minimum wage back then.
Yeah.
And then I realized something extremely powerful, Edna, the power of profit, right? So An hour of my time was worth $5 an hour. But on the other hand, I can make a $40 in a 10-minute transaction by selling a pair of jeans that I bought for $20 for $60 in school. And so I knew at 17 that I was going to pursue profits for the rest of my life. So when I graduated high school, 19, I said, I want to have my own like physical location, right? This is before the internet.
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
before
yeah,
you
exactly.
needed like brick and mortar to do things.
Yeah.
And so, of course, 96% of the people out there said I was crazy. But the 4% actually believed in me and they invested. And, you know, that was my first joint venture opportunity that I ever, my first capital raise, $2,700, right? Thanks to friends. And I managed to take that small investment of $2,700 and I turned it into a company grossing in the millions across Canada. And, you know, I thought I had made it. You know, by 21, I had created a funnel of money that it was like nonstop, stores all across Canada. I'm 21 years old. But the problem for me was that I was very much a consumer. And, you know, 21 years old, I grew up with nothing.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'd spent all the money and I didn't think about recessions, corrections, or things that would happen in the industry. And so when 9/11 came, it would actually, the economy contracted. It was a mini recession. And I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. I had no reserves. I had nothing. And it almost took me out. Right. Mm-hmm. And I was so down on myself, at myself. I was so upset. And I was like, how could I let this happen? How could I put my family in such jeopardy? Yeah. And so this is when I started reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich. And what I discovered was, you know, I figured out how to make money, but I didn't know how to keep it. I didn't know how to manage it. Of course, I never came from, my family never had money or had businesses. Exactly. And so I realized that the common thread amongst all of these wealthy people, because, you know, I went from Rich Dad, Poor Dad to like hundreds of other books, was that all of them had multiple sources of income and they all included real estate. Yes. And I said, that was my problem. My problem was I only had one source of income. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so that's when I started about 20 plus years ago, or about 20 years ago, I started, and I chose specifically multi-res because I looked at consumables and I looked at a house like a consumable. And it's funny, like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it talks about how the single family house is a bad investment, but we all like skip. It's like 20 million copies sold. Everybody skips over that part and they're like, I'm going to buy my house first, right? Yeah. It's like Monopoly. No, where in Monopoly does it say buy your house for yourself? Or where does it say stop at the green house? The whole objective is to get to the red hotel. Yeah. And so that made a lot of sense to me. And that's when I started, reduce my life, change my entire life, reduce all my expenses, went into multifamily. And then 2008 came. And when 2008 came, it gave me some flashbacks of what I had gone through with that mini correction, but I was in a better situation. My expenses were extremely low. And now I was set up to take advantage of all the opportunity. And so if you remember in 2008, for Canada, it was not a real estate crash, but it was a correction for sure. Mm-hmm. But if you remember in 2008, there was no money available. Nobody wanted to lend any money. And so the only people that were lending money were insured mortgages by CMHC. Yeah. And I had a previous mortgage that I did with CMHC that in 2002, 2003. And I said, that's the last time. It was extremely painful. And I said, that's the last time I'm doing that. But then those mortgages were the only ones around. And if you know, it's like pulling teeth with those people. I mean, it's like painful. But then I started to ask good questions. I'm like, well, why do you guys underwrite? Why is your evaluation always coming in so different than when we're buying the properties? And then, so the answers that I was getting back were like, well, this is a Canadian owned organization, and they don't want to lose money. Well, I don't want to lose money. Who wants to lose money?
We're on the same page here.
Yeah, and so I started to really look at the way they underwrite their properties, with the repairs and maintenance, vacancies, and all that. And I started to adopt the same underwriting philosophy to the way I was buying properties. And basically, my idea was like, okay, so if I buy a property in the way CMHC would insure a property, then I know I'm going to build a business that's Armageddon proof. Yeah. And, I could, you can't go wrong with that. And so that's when it all started. I started buying apartment buildings and leveling up. And then now we end up here with this portfolio across Canada, being, an educator and, loving what I do.
What is the size of your multifamily apartment building portfolio right now?
Oh, so we got rid of a lot of stuff. I don't know about you. This has been a good time to sell, right? But we're roughly around just under 500 doors.
Okay. Yeah. Now, one of the things that interested me when you and I started talking is that you started buying in Saskatchewan, even though you're from Ontario. And a lot of people from Ontario think Saskatchewan is the worst place to invest ever. What was your reasoning behind that?
Yeah, so you'll like the story, I think.
I think I will.
So I had a little bit of experience. So when I had my retail empire, I did have stores in Saskatoon and Regina. Unfortunately, I never spent much time there because it's kind of like this province in the middle of the country. Like you have all this land, and you got this province, and there's about 1 million people in the province, but everybody's so spread out. I think the joke I heard one time is you can watch a one-legged dog run away for days or something.
So true. But we have the most beautiful sunrises and sunsets.
Oh, the Northern Lights. Of course, forget about it. Don't get me started in the Northern Lights.
Yeah.
And so I actually fell in love, just around maybe, a while back with a girl from Saskatoon, right? In Ottawa. I met her here, right? And so we really, we got together, we built a life together, and then, we're doing all this real estate stuff. And then she's like, hey, and we kept going back there, right? Because the family, she's from Kindersley. And so I'm like, oh, let's look at, because, I have an addiction.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe you're the same. Like I could be in Timbuktu, corner of the world, China, and I'm looking at real estate. I want to see what's the real estate doing.
Yeah.
And then first of all, I love the people.
Yes.
The people are warm, kind, beautiful people. Not to say that people aren't like that generally in Canada, but there's something special about the way people are in Saskatchewan that I think it's very unique to the rest of the country. And so I started to fall in love with the province. I started to fall in love with the real estate there. I saw that the inventory was really healthy compared to the rest of the country. Even though things are kind of spread out a little bit, but you can find really decent people and people to support the things that you're doing. So I started to buy there. We bought in, as like Melville, Hudson Bay, all these places, Saskatoon, and all that. Yeah. And so it was kind of like it got sparked with love, and then that's why we ended up investing in Saskatchewan.
That is so exciting. And what was really cool for me is Alfonso owns a 36 unit in Hudson Bay, Saskatchewan, which is where my brother and sister live, like my sister's.
Moose capital of the world.
Yes, and
Moose
sledding
capital
and
of the world.
fishing and all kinds of stuff,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
My husband actually goes sledding up there 2-3 times a year. And one of my students was looking at that property because I remember analyzing
Yeah.
it with them, and we're scared away because it was it was 36 units. You said it was about 50% vacant or something
I
like that.
know it was about 30% vacant.
About 30% vacant.
Yeah, 30% vacant. And you know, it definitely would scare a lot of people, right? When I looked at, so I never knew where Hudson Bay, Saskatchewan was, right? Like I had no clue what it was. I'm still looking for the bay, by the way. I've been there a few times. Yeah, I didn't see a bay yet. I don't know which one is the bay. Where's the bay?
Yeah.
But you know, I went. So we started to we analyzed that deal, and you know, there was a few things that I liked about it. First of all, purpose built. We love that purpose built, solid building. Of course, the boiler was about to go or whatever, and it seemed to be overpriced. And I think that's why a lot of people didn't look at that, because you look at the price. I think the price at that time was about $900,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And based on the numbers and where the property was at that time, and in the condition of that boiler, it was overpriced, right? So then
I believe at the same time, Alfonso, the sawmill one of the sawmills had just closed, right?
I think it was like 2 years prior or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, obviously that has an effect on it, right? It's like, this is what I took because the town, I don't know. My wife, she looked at the population. She's like, the population is only 2,500 people. Mm-hmm. And I said, as long as it doesn't go under 36. You know, because I'm like, as long as everybody lives in my building, I'm okay, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm playing around, but you know, it had a lot of promise, and at 900,000, it definitely wasn't worth it wasn't worth it. And so it came by my desk a few times, and I think it was I think it came back at, they had reduced the price, so they had someone that it was under contract at some point, and the price, they couldn't get financing or whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't know why that deal fell through, but it was like they had it under contract for like $850 or something. And then it came back. They're like, okay, the seller is motivated. You know, we know that you looked at it. And, you know, I said, okay, well, like, I haven't been there. You know, I look at the numbers. So I put it under contract. I think it was at 775. I just tied it up. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to, sometimes I just want to tie it up, like, quit thinking about it. Let's just see what they say, you know? Exactly. So I flew down there and I saw the condition, and I know why it wasn't selling. Number one, it's going to be hard to get financing. You know, when you're showing a 30% vacancy, it's going to, there's there's going to be so many challenges. Mm-hmm. That boiler was on its last legs. I would say it was like that boiler was just hanging on by a thread, you know? So I'm like, that boiler is going to go. So a lot of things are going to scare people, but a boiler is only $30,000. Exactly. It's not the end of the world. You know what I mean? You include that into your purchase price. Yeah. So I did some reflection, and I did some research, right? A lot of people don't take the time to do the research that is necessary on the seller, right? I do like forensics. I Google, I go on their Facebook. I'm in the seller's picnics. You know, I'm looking at their family. I'm trying to see if they have, like, what kind of family, do they have a Facebook? Where do they live? Right. So I looked at the address on the purchase agreement, and I went, like, I'm like, Google Maps, like, went right to his house, I saw where he's living, and I saw I did a proper discovery, right?
Yeah.
And most people just don't take the time because everybody's so focused on the price. It's not always about the price. It's not always about the price. Yeah. Sometimes the property just can be a headache for someone, and they just want, and maybe if they sold that property, it's going to be even more headaches because they have capital gains. They have to they got to still pay all these taxes, and that's a big headache for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But after doing all of my reflection, I came back with I think it was $650 purchase price, 90% vendor take back, interest only for the first year at 3% interest, and 4-year deal with an option to renew.
Nice, yes.
And then what we wanted to do is get in there right away and improve the efficiency of the property. And the way I ran my numbers at like, okay, what if this goes to 50%
vacant?
And at 50%, I was still getting a 7% cash on cash return, right?
Awesome, yeah.
And here's a big thing: no personal guarantee.
Exactly.
Right. Like the property is the guarantee.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so it's a no-brainer at this point, right? I relocated a couple from Ottawa, moved them into the building. We put in all our systems. Actually, the boiler went about 2 months after.
Okay.
And so we had to get a new boiler, which is great. I mean, people had better. It was more efficient, and it worked out great. We knew the boiler was going to go, but it actually went. And now I think we got the property about 20% vacancy, and we're improving little bit by little bit. And you know what? It performs really well.
That's awesome. That's such good news. And then recently you just actually put a property under contract, and it especially caught my eye because in conversations with you, I recognized that 2 of my students had been working on that deal. But you know what's funny, Alfonso, is the very first call I got on it, I said, get it under contract. I don't care what price, get it under contract. Well, blah, blah, blah. Well, blah, blah, blah. And I go, well, and I told both of them the same thing, get it under contract, only to find out a couple of weeks later, because I never heard anything back, that Alfonso has it under contract.
Yeah. So kind of a funny story, but I got the email as well, like everybody else. And I didn't even, I'm looking for ways to optimize my Hudson Bay property. Yeah. So I have a couple there, and it's close by. That's all I saw.
Yeah.
The purchase price was okay. It was okay. It's still under contract, so I won't talk about the what I have it under contract for. Exactly. But what I will say is within the first 15 minutes, I'm calling and I'm pushing for an offer. I'm putting an offer now. They're like, no, we want to hold offers. I'm like, no, I don't care what you're doing. I'm putting in my offer right now. You have to you gotta push your way in there, because you have, like, especially in this market today. Yeah. And people from Saskatchewan, everybody's really relaxed, but you have Ontario vultures, right? that are just, like, hovering, right? And so
those smart ones anyway, right, Alfonso? When you recognize the deal, you recognize the deal, and it was so cool to know you're already buying here. But so then the next point, I just kind of want to say this real quickly. So I actually set you up on a call with one of my students who should have made the offer on the property, and he texted me this morning saying, "Hey, I just got off the call with Alfonso." I have to read this because I tell you, it's so funny. He says to me, "Edna, I just got off the call with Alfonso. Thank you so much for the introduction. I was so humbled by the conversation with him. Meeting him is definitely the highlight of the year by far. Thank you. And I said, even more than meeting me, ha ha.
And what did you say?
You in
2020 highlight.
That's last year. That's old news, right? And I said, oh, that's so awesome. So definitely a great person to get to know. And we're excited to see that you're still hot on Saskatchewan, because I have students buying in Saskatchewan all the time, like right now. Not just Saskatchewan, Ontario, Manitoba, Alberta, really good markets to be buying in. But
I'm a big believer in Saskatchewan by far. I think it's really the most underrated province in the country. And as you know, the government's taken on massive amounts of debt, and we are potentially going to be in big trouble. And the only way to get out of that trouble, and this is just a personal opinion, is going to be through massive immigration. If we have a massive immigration policy where we're bringing more immigrants to Canada, you're going to see a spike in the economy, in everything, right? So I see that as the only way out for our government to actually, get out of this debt. And so some of those provinces that are, right now, like underrated provinces like Saskatchewan, those are the ones that are going to be receiving a lot of these immigrants. Yes. And I definitely see, I see that as a massive opportunity in the next 5 years.
Yeah, there's going to be opportunities for building too. So yeah, no, I totally agree with you. But I do have to go, but this has been absolutely amazing, Alfonso. It's my pleasure to get to know you, and I'm sure that we're going to end up doing something together.
We're going to do so much together.
We will, absolutely.
And every time we're together, you'll see, I'm going to wear something fuchsia. Like I'm going to always honor you.
Well, Alfonso, I do a live event, or I did up until the last year because of COVID. So definitely going to put you on my stage and share you with the group, because like I say, it's a real welcome addition. I love to share you with my audience. And so how do people find you if they want to reach out and hear more of your wisdom?
Google me. I'm Googleable.
Okay, perfect.
I have a YouTube channel. They can subscribe. Every day I'm putting out, my objective is to serve, right? Yeah. And, how can I be of service? And the only way that the gift that I have is this, I'm very outspoken and I speak my mind all the time. And I can take a complex subject matter and simplify it so anybody can understand. And so I'm doing daily videos, live videos or content on real estate, not just real estate, business. I'm a business person first. I mean, I was, that's how I started, through traditional business and personal development and sales and public speaking. And, I'm just passionate about all these subject matters, and it just it just spews out. This is why the second they created YouTube, I'm like, perfect. I have about 600 videos on there.
And it fits, right? And I think, Alfonso, part of that, and this is back to the beginning of our conversation, is, a lot of people don't do well in school, and they beat themselves up for the rest of their lives instead of figuring out things like we did, right? I always say my favorite book is Why Do A Students Work for B Students and C Students Work for the Government, right? No, did I say that right? Why do A students work for C students and B students work for the government? Yeah, that's it. And the reason I love that book is I was a C student my whole life. Like, it just was not my forte. But one of my teachers one time, I said to him, "Did you ever think I would end up this successful?" Because I remember passing his class with a 50, social studies, right? I was like, I hated that crap.
Yeah.
And, he said to me, he says,
You did better than me.
Did I? He says, "You know what, Edna? I always felt that if you could maximize your do something that would really maximize your social skills, that you could be successful." And I went, I didn't even know that was a skill in high school. Yeah. I didn't know that was a skill. But isn't that interesting how you just, adapt, and your success you weren't meant to peak in high school, people. A lot of people think they were, and a lot of people did. You know, they had 90s and 98s and whatever. And it's like, yeah, that's not what life is all about.
Well, you know what? For me, high school, well, it was dark moments for me. I actually dropped out at 15. I was homeless. But I went back the second time to prove something. I didn't ever want my daughter to say, "Oh, I'm not going to finish high school because you didn't do it." So I at least I wanted to finish my high school. But after high school, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with my life. I knew that I was going to pursue profits for the rest of my life. I was just never going to make it in the academic world.
Yeah.
And my mom, at a very young age, God bless her soul, she didn't know any better, but all she could teach me is, like, you know what, get good grades. If you don't get good grades or you don't get a university degree, forget it. You're not going to become anything in the world. But what I discovered after I got into the real world is nobody ever asked me for a university degree or what my grades were in high school. All people want to know is my statement. They want to see my net worth statement, and they want to make sure that I have good credit.
Yes.
Those are the things that matter in the real world, right? And so never once did ask you for your report card, And so all these things that I thought were important, which they are, I think there's a place for education for sure. I recently in 2017, I launched a youth foundation, the Quadra Youth Foundation, and we're teaching financial literacy to young people, because I think those are important skills that are going to help young people in the future, right?
Oh, I agree. Yes, that's
sales,
awesome.
learning, showing them how to sell, showing them how to stand up in front of a group of people and present your idea. How to start a business. What's a mortgage?
Yes.
All of these, it seems so simple for us as adults, but only if you had those skills as a young person. Imagine how you could, stop all this time wasting. And, like you see these young people, they take a year off. What year off? What do you take? This is the time where you have the energy. This is where you want to execute
everything.
And make your money and like work on your skills. So in your late 20s, you can take a year off, So anyways, I'm a big believer in that financial literacy. And that's why I do what I do.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. I totally agree with you. And I think my girls are very smart. They do really well in school, but I keep telling them it's not the be all and end all. There's so much more.
Yeah.
My one girl just graduated, and I got her to get her life insurance license because they said, you learn how to sell life insurance, you'll never be without work, and you'll always have lots of money. So that's where she started.
So my oldest is 26. And she just started a MLM company. Like she joined shampoo. I don't know. I can't. I'm going to mess it up. I know I'm going to mess it up.
Yeah.
But it's. I think it's called Monet.
Oh yes, yeah.
And she asked me, like, Dad, what do you think of this? Because my friends are saying that it's a pyramid scheme or whatever. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that tells me that you're surrounding yourself around the wrong people. Right. This, for a young person, this is exactly one of the easiest ways to learn about business, learn about networking, building communities, building leaders, becoming a leader without at such a low investment.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
and so I definitely encouraged, I said, I like, if you're doing this, do it, go for it, and put in all your effort. And the worst thing that could happen at the other side, you leave better than you were when you started.
Absolutely. Yeah. You get some direction. Well, you know what? This has been such a pleasure talking to you, Alfonso. I'm sure we could talk all day, the rest of the day.
We could talk
but
all
you know what we have
day.
to do? We just have to get you back on the podcast again.
I'm ready. I have another fuchsia jacket ready to go.
I love it. Okay, well, thank you once again for being on my podcast. And like Alfonso said, if you want more information, connect with him. Google him. He's everywhere, especially on YouTube. Take care. Bye for now.